everybody. Welcome back to the Next Level Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Leslie. As you all know, this is a platform about self-mastery and life hacks so you can live your absolute most authentic, best, most prosperous, fill-in-the-blank life that you want to have. I'm delivering this from Sticky Pot Studios. I love them so much. Oh my God, and I have an amazing, amazing guest today. I always have amazing guests. That's just who I attract. But this is a financial abundance prosperity mini-series that I'm doing within my podcast. So we've had some really incredible advice. We've gotten some really practical tools. So if you haven't been following this financial series, jump back and have a listen because there is also more to come too. So we want to really jam-pack you full of all of the practical tools, the strategies, the insights, the different ways that you can generate revenue authentically that resonates with you so you can get out of the 9 to 5 and live liberated and free and truly have that happiness, that fulfillment without, being stuck and tired and working for the man. We want you to be the man. We want those women out there to be their own man, their own men, their own bosses. And so, without further ado, and we've had a really great chat before we got on the podcast here. We've got a really good vibe going. But without further ado, I invite you all to meet Ronda Wynn.
Hey.
Hey, girl.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. She's my new best friend already. We said just a few words, and I'm like, I love her already. All of you know that I'm a little bit of a pervert. Yes, I am. And so those of you who've been following me from the beginning know that when I've had my guests come onto the chair, I would tell them a little joke between me and my producer. And I have a new engineer today, Jerica. So everyone's going to be getting a little update on this. I would have them put the microphone 6 inches from your mouth. And she giggled. Oh my God. I knew I fell in love with her the moment she giggled. Okay. I love her personality. I outed you. Sorry, you're a perv too.
Everyone
Welcome to the
knows.
club.
Everyone knows. If you know me, you know. I'm all about authenticity. So there's nothing that no one knows about me.
And that's why she's here, guys, because this is all about being authentic. You all know my garbage. You all know my past. So you know that I'm building my brand from the crazy, legal, wild journey that I had and all the abuse and, my disempowered state that I was in, evolving myself, mastering my mind, my body, my energy field, my understanding of reality, and me being a creator in this cool experience called life. And I like to have people that share that same sentiment, that are authentic, that have, just they're real. I get complimented all the time about just, God, you're so real. I'm like, this is the only way I know how to be. And it's the only way that you can, I feel, really be able to generate true prosperity, success, fulfillment, really all of it. Do you agree?
Same. I mean, my entire brand is Real Life by Rhonda. So when people go, where can I find you? I'm like, it's Real Life by Rhonda everywhere on the internet because I operate from a point of view of real life. And what does that mean? It's very easy to get caught up in a curated life, but what skills, what tools do we need to activate in real life?
It's funny you say that because I've seen a lot of gurus that have become gurus within the last decade or beyond, and they're so fucking full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. I followed some of you on Instagram, and I don't anymore. Some of them I do just to remind me of how much bullshit there is out there. Yeah. But there are some that really have built their brands from complete fake or partial. They won people over by being real, but then they slid in some fake and tried to, create, do this and then you can be successful. You can make the money. Yeah, that's a great strategy, but I don't want to use that as my strategy. Right. So feed me something that's going to really empower me to be able to make all the money that I want and create that's not your way. Right. And so I think more and more people like you and I that are building our brands, we're going to be seeing a lot more authentic, wealthy, guru-esque, not that I want to be a guru, but people that have followings from realism, because no one can, we don't want to set an example to be fake. Right. You can reach these things, but you're not going to have that true fulfillment. Right. And I also have heard a lot of behind the scenes stuff of some of these people and what their real lives are like. Oh my God.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
I've seen people that, obviously rent cars, rent houses, and they have nothing in them. They, go to places that they're not invited to and take pictures on red carpets. And it's very easy to give the illusion that you have wealth. It's not hard. And I've seen lots of people make money based on an illusion. I had a guru promise me, well, not promise, but I won a contest for $10,000 if whoever sold the most tickets to this event. And of course, I killed it because I'm a networker. I know people trust me. I'm like, you got to come to this event. Sold all of these tickets, didn't hear anything about my $10,000. I'm like, where's my $10,000? It's like, oh, well, you can roll it into be a part of my mastermind.
No.
I'm like, I want my money.
So what did you do?
I didn't do anything. I was asked out. I didn't join the mastermind because I no longer trusted this person. Right. And I didn't get my $10,000. And I learned my lesson. I learned a valuable lesson in discernment and truly looking at the content that people that are gurus put out. And is this something that could be easily curated? Not to say that everything is fake, but I really started paying attention to how easy it is to present wealth and authority and being a thought leader. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, where are your articles? Where is the proof? Like, where's the real proof? Because it's very easy to curate things.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I was thinking too to myself, for me, I'm a researcher. I publish, like I have a doctoral degree and I elected to do a master's research paper and published like not in a regular journal, just in, the local stuff. And it gives me a little bit of authority, but, I created from all the theorization that I did, I learned in my nursing programs and everything, I created my own sort of personal development process, like the remap process. It is my information, my thoughts, my original thoughts, my process that I used personally and still use to this day with more complexity, more tools, more things as I've evolved. I mean, that's my shit.
Right.
Like my own stuff, my own story. I don't, I haven't borrowed from anybody. I haven't pretended there's so much copyright too that I found a lot of people do. Like big time copyright, like literally almost word for word from other people's websites, cookie cutter. Not just like format, like literal stealing verbiage.
It's very easy to do in such an oversaturated information highway. It's just people don't worry about, they think they're going to slip through the cracks. It's so easy. And if you're targeting an avatar that doesn't do the research and just wants that kind of quick, answer to how can I change my life? How can I get rich quick? How can I do this? And if you are a person that's easy to finesse other people, it's very easy to just grab something that looks, like something that you would want to say, throw it on your website and start posting some pictures and get money.
Right. With enough marketing funds, you could be on everyone's fucking phone. Yeah. Like everywhere. And people will just be, because of sheer human psychology and repetition, you will end up creating a following just out of the, statistics of it. You could be absolute garbage. I was talking with somebody, God, was it today or yesterday? I can't recall, that they, there are people that don't have, in the tango community. So there are some teachers, some pros that are really bad dancers. They're not even great teachers. But because they have charisma, they're out there, they're pounding the pavement, they connect with people, they have these huge followings, and they have this great and very successful practice because they know the business side of it. But you can have someone so talented, so amazing, has so much wisdom, if they don't know how to reach their audience.
Yes.
Then you're fucked. And it's really a big, big piece of business. Can you relate to that? Do you have any insights on that?
I actually just talked about this last week. I tend to give people a lot of tough love. And I work with women. I work with people in business. People are trying to elevate. And one of the phrases that really drives me crazy when people are making kind of excuses as to, fear is, I just want to make sure everything's right. People will procrastinate. And I always say, there is someone out here, lots of someone's out here, who are giving 10% of your talent, your skill, your knowledge, your ability, and they're out here making bank. And because you have imposter syndrome, or you don't understand your worth, or your limiting beliefs, or you're just afraid of rejection, you're not trying. There are people that are ready, but because of, curation and the perception of perfection, most of the people that are really, really talented are fearful that they aren't talented enough when actually they're overqualified.
Oh my God, that is so true. I was there at one point as well.
I was too.
Yeah, it's crazy. You like, I really had to give my head a shake. And there's so much, and I think that kind of goes along with that perfectionism and just that drive and that ambition. But there has to be a point when we like hit a wall, or we just are so tired of being not successful that you have to you just take that step back and go, okay, something needs to shift. But before we get into too much of this, I didn't even do your introduction and properly in terms of what your titles are. What is her formal title? So you're learning and development specialist. So that's for the corporate side that you work with. You work with mindset kind of coaching, if you will, to help in the corporate arena develop those skills, right?
Yes.
And then on a more personal level, you're an empowerment coach.
Yes.
Which is amazing. So you work more one-on-one, particularly with women.
Particularly with women.
Some men.
I do have some men, but it's mostly women, mostly women in transition. So life transitions, whether they are pivoting into, entrepreneurship, or leaving a divorce, looking to level up and, change their life. So I help women in transition. So my motto is live your best life in real life.
Yeah, amazing. Hence the name here, the Next Level Podcast. So we're helping all you ladies and gentlemen get to your next level with your finances, no matter where that is. If you are broke or in debt, or you're like, dude, I'm just ready to get to the next level, let's get some information today for you so that we can get you there. So I wanted to get a little bit of background on you.
Okay.
And listeners, kind of where you came from, how you got to this sort of, corporate coaching and personal coaching and finance.
It's such a full circle journey. So I started in corporate America, and I started in human resources and training and development. So I always worked in training development and recruitment. And then from there, I started working in higher education. So I worked as a director of career services for several schools, mostly technical schools. So people who were going for like medical assistant or esthetician, massage therapist. And after a while, I just really got burnt out with working for the man. And I had so much experience, and what I found myself doing was taking everything that I was learning from the corporate world and giving people advice. Like, oh, okay, well, teaching people to interview. This is what the recruiter is going to look for, or this is how you get a job, or this is how you network, or, this is how you level up. And people would always say, like, Rhonda, you're a coach. You need to be a coach. And I was like, is that even a real thing? Like, that doesn't sound like a real thing, but it was absolutely a real thing. So in about, I would say 2014, I pivoted into doing my own thing, empowerment coaching, and I was working specifically one-on-one with women. And I loved it, but after a while, I think post-COVID, I kind of had that itch to go back and work with corporate again, but I didn't want to be in corporate. So I found that for me as a business owner, it was much easier of a flow. It was in line with the cadence of my life to do more business to business versus business to consumer. It gave me so much more flexibility because I didn't have to work as much. I'm not like an eat what you kill type of person. Most of my leads come from referrals when it comes to one-on-one coaching. And I was like, I want to do more. I want to make more. I want to do more, but I don't want to hustle more. So how can I create this model that allows me to work less and make more? And I'm like, corporate consulting. So that's when I did the business to business model, and I started reaching out to companies and saying, hey, would you like me to train your sales team? I can talk to your sales team or your staff about this topic, that topic, and it just kind of blew up.
So you just went, okay, we're going to get into the details because we are all about practical tools, strategies, resources, skills. So you said you just called. So let's back the truck up because we don't want anyone to miss anything. So did you start with what? A website, a business card? You just started calling people and learned what they requested based off of that interaction? How did you start?
Well, I had a little bit of knowledge from working in human resources and working in training and development. And I had a lot of friends in marketing and executive sales. So I knew that companies bring speakers in. I knew there was a budget for this. So I knew that all I would have to do is just call a company and say, give me your, director of learning and development and say, how do I get on your roster? These are the topics that I speak about. I knew how to put a proposal together. So I had seen this before just in networking, but it's not something that is talked about a lot. And that's the thing about building wealth. A lot of the things where there is like money and wealth and ease, it's not digital products. It's not, the travel industry. It's not these buzzwords that people are talking about. It's things that you've never even considered before. But it may not be sexy, but it pays.
Oh, paying is sexy. I'll put that lingerie on. The sexy speaker lingerie, the niche lingerie. That's what we're talking about, and not literal here, not literal. So, okay, let's rewind a little bit back because you went from, I was in human resources, and then I just started to one-on-one coach, empowerment coach, and then you we totally glazed over. Look, I got so excited, I hit my microphone. We need the details. So again, what was the model of coaching that you used? How did you start your coaching business? Because this is a very particular model. So there's different ways that people can make income, diversify their income. There's like the influencer model.
Right.
There's the content creator model. There's the coaching model. So I would like you to speak to the coaching model and how you created your revenue, how that transition took. Were you able to just quit your job and just move into it? What were your specific steps? How did that roll out? Again, in human resources, you had knowledge, you had people,
right.
You had obviously a referral network.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Really dumb it down and walk us through how those things happened.
The model for me, actually, I didn't find it, it found me. So I've always been a speaker. Even when I was in corporate, I would always volunteer and just, be a thought leader and give back to the community. That was my way of paying it forward. So this was something that I was doing. I would speak. I used to be a foster parent for the state of Nevada. So I would go out and I would talk about foster care advocacy and all of these things and just how I managed life. At the time, I was a single mom. I had a single mom. I had foster children. And I usually always worked 2 jobs. I was that girl that even if I had a corporate job, I worked at Ulta on Friday and Saturday to get $500 a month in free makeup and vacation money. I always wanted more than what just my salary was giving me because I knew that I didn't have to settle for that. So my coaching model found me because I would go and speak and then people would come up to me and say, hey, they would cry. I really loved your story. Can you tell me more? I want to be like you. I want to not feel bad about being a single mother or having 2 jobs, or I want to be able to have the courage to do these things. And I was giving people free advice, basically. And then I went to a seminar and I saw a coach. And I ended up coming back here and hiring a coach. And she's like, you need to monetize what you're doing. This formula works for you. And to this day, this is still the formula that I use to get clients. I have maybe 1,700 Instagram followers. I'm barely on social media. I have social media for a heartbeat so that if someone finds me and they're like, oh yeah, she's a real person.
Right.
But I literally go to events, I speak on a topic, and I get clients.
See, and I love this because really everyone pay attention to this because I am a speaker and, I do other things too. And people are like, you need to do social media. And I'm like, I don't fucking have to do social media. I will cut you if you tell me I have to do social media one more time, right? It's not an absolute necessity, particularly with this niche that we're talking about, which is speaking. It really is. A lot of the gigs are just having, again, the gigs I got were the same way. You network, people see you, you talk about what you do. Oh, you're a speaker. Oh, you have a podcast. Oh, you could do this. And they see your charisma and they're like, I love your story. Okay, what can we do? So I totally love that. I totally second that motion that you do not have to make a bunch of money through being a slave to social media in the coaching model necessarily. As long as you have what you're saying, you have some experience, you genuinely like doing it.
Yes.
You have to genuinely like being a speaker. You genuinely need to be wanting to and going out there so you can make money off of your passion if speaking is your passion. But it is about who you know and getting in front of people. Because people want to buy you.
Right.
Lots of people have a story, but they're buying your story and your presentation and the way your story was created.
It's an energy.
It
you
is.
know, you have to have an awareness of your energy, so I always model myself as I'm the Beyonce of this. So I'll say I'm the Beyonce of networking, or I'm the Beyonce of speaking, or whatever. And I didn't put that on myself. That was the energy that other people would say. They're like, oh, so I'm like, I'm going to own that. Like, I'm going to own that. And I know where to go where people are seeking that energy. So I don't just speak anywhere. I check the room, I check the vibe, and I do my research. I'm like, okay, this looks like a good event. The avatar, the attendees, the metrics, everything is aligned with my vibe. They're going to feel my vibe. So you have to do a little bit of research. You can't just pop up wherever.
Yep.
You have to do a little bit of research and have a really good offer after that's going to speak directly to whatever the issue is. So you really have to know, and gurus will say this, experts will say this, you have to know who your avatar is and what they're struggling with. And the problem that a lot of people are missing is you'd be surprised the things that people are struggling with that are so simple to you. And you could break it down.
Like, give us an example.
Oh my gosh, something as simple as following up. So I have a workshop called Following Up with Finesse. And it's mind-blowing to people when they hear the formula that I use to start to build relationships and nurture relationships in a way that isn't cringy. And when I teach this workshop, I'm literally looking at light bulbs going off like, oh my gosh. And it's something as simple as send a text message with, it's my formula, the 3 R's, a resource, a review, or a referral, and say, let me know what you think about this. So now you've reached out to this person that you met at a wedding, a networking event, the bar, in the grocery store line, based on whatever conversation you had with them, and say, you know what? I know you said that your daughter is getting married next week or next month. I'm going to send you something. Send the article, send the coupon, send whatever it is, and say, let me know what you thought about that. And then wait for the person to respond. But if they don't respond, now you have a valid reason to reach back out without being like, hey, let's meet for coffee. Dude, I just met you. I don't want to sit. I don't want to sit in a coffee shop with like some stranger I talked to for 5 minutes at like a networking event. That's weird.
Yeah.
It feels transactional.
It does.
Yeah, but if you follow up with finesse, you can kind of say, hey, or you can say, hey, you know what? I remember that you said you had a podcast. I watched a few episodes on YouTube. It was great. I left a comment, but I'd like to leave you a review. Send a text message or an email. Where do you like your reviews?
Nice.
Yeah. And then the other one is a referral. Hey, I heard you talking about, you need a painter, or you need more podcast guests, or you're looking for a new bank, whatever it is. Here's the link. Let me know what you think. So usually if you follow up with one of the 3 R's, it opens a conversation. It allows a trust factor and a slow bond to be built. And then you get the conversation going. And then that's when you can say, hey, I'm attending this event next month. I don't know if you want to go, but it would be beneficial. Now you're going out with this person and spending time with them versus, hey, I met you. Let's go to coffee and see what we can do for each other.
Yeah, it's like a date. It's
Who
crazy.
likes that?
I love this approach. It's really amazing. So again, let's break it down more simply for people. So you meet somebody. When do you reach out to them with?
I usually do it within 48 hours because you want to be fresh in their head. You don't know how many people they've met. People, the energy tends to die out a little bit. People aren't as excited as the event or whatever passes. It's not as exciting. You met someone, you vibed with them, and then a week later, it's kind of like, yeah, but you want to catch them. So usually within 24 to 48 hours, I will send a text or an email or something, and I'll also follow that person on social media and like engage a little bit just to kind of start building a bond. But the goal is to start building a relationship offline that doesn't start with some weird coffee date where you never see the person again.
And that's a big time investment for you as well, because you're taking a chance on someone and it could be a disaster.
It could be a disaster. And then you know who, I mean, if you reach out to someone and you send them something and then they don't reach back out and you follow up and then they still don't reach back out, you can move on. You know, circle back to that person maybe if something comes up on their social media that is relevant. But you kind of know who wants to get into getting to know you this way without saying, oh, let's meet for coffee. And then you're sitting there and it's like, what do we talk about?
Right.
It's weird.
It's true. So if they don't respond right away, you wait like, what, a week? A month?
I wait like maybe 10 days. And just because people are busy, people are doing their thing, you know, and you have something to talk about. So it's like, hey, I like to send people podcast episodes. That's one of my favorite things to send people. So I'll be like, hey, you know, we were talking about, I met a woman last week at a Pepsi convention or something. They were having a convention at Lake Las Vegas, and she thought I worked for Pepsi, and I didn't. And we were talking all about, you know, these cool jobs and all of these things. And we started talking about our daughters and daughters growing up. And we connected on LinkedIn. And I was like, you know, I sent her an article on like motherhood, like the transitional phases of motherhood or whatever. And I was like, hey, let me know what you think. Well, she's an executive at Pepsi. I know she's busy. She may not have even looked at it yet. So I'll give it some time. And I'll follow back and say, hey, did you get a chance to listen to that podcast I sent you? And she might be like, no, I was thinking about it. But, well, how's you doing? How are your daughters? It just gives you an open that's soft without having to feel pushy.
Right. Yeah. That's really great. What I'm thinking about is, because some of the coaching clients that I've worked with, what you were saying, I could hear my coaching clients' responses. I can't do that. I don't feel they're not confident enough. Like people really need confidence to not take it personally. They didn't respond to me. There's something wrong with me. So in your coaching clients, how often do you have to deal with so you tell them the things that need to be done. And for you and I, it's just like it's I just need to know the skill. Now I'm going to execute it. But there's like preamble, like people need to have some foundational skills to be able to like even execute a skill. So, yes, there's fundamentals. So it'll lead into my next question for you is, what are like the top 3 problems people have when you're coaching them? This is away from like the financial piece. We'll get into that question later. But just in terms of the holdbacks people have from actually following through with some of the great wisdom that you give them.
Definitely limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome would be number 1. I would say fear of rejection is number 2. And number 3, that I think is probably the most important, is their core circle is completely counterproductive to their goals. Like, drop everybody. Nothing that I can tell you or teach you is going to work if you continue in the social circles and the communities that you're in. I always say to my clients, their limiting beliefs are having conversations with your limiting beliefs, and you don't even know that conversation's happening. So you could be doing all of the work. Like literally, I have people like, I did my homework, I did this. But then you go to a barbecue or a party or
your fucking family's place or your in-laws' place. Boom, done.
And it just undoes everything because it's a lot of work to undo 30, 40 years of limiting beliefs. So,
and it takes sometimes just one person, that one family member or friend that you put so much value on for your own wound or whatever. They say one thing or look at you with one hair out of place, and it can completely derail you. I've been there. It doesn't happen anymore because I've recognized it, went through my whole process. But holy God, can I relate to that?
Yeah. So I have a qualifier now. So here's my thing. After years of working with people and just feeling like my work was just kind of like wasted because they weren't doing the internal work and the mindset work, they just wanted to get to the bag. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You have to do the mindset work first, but no one wants to listen. So now I have qualifiers. So when we do our discovery call, there's like 15 questions that you have to answer that will give me kind of an idea of where you are on your mindset journey. And I ask, what podcasts are you listening to? Are you in therapy? Are you open to therapy? Do you have any spiritual guidance in your life whatsoever? I don't care what it is, but is there a higher being other than yourself that is helping you, push through? If I get people that are like, you know what, I only want to spend $100 to $500 a year on my personal development. I don't really listen to any podcasts. I haven't read any books in the last few years. no, therapy's a no. Like I disqualify people.
Yes.
So that helps me a lot.
Yeah, I became the same way too. At the very beginning, you get so excited, you want to help everybody, and you're just like, this is fucking stupid. Like, I can't, this is a waste of my time, my talent, my energy, my all the things. And it's a waste of their time too. You know, you want to feel valued for your wisdom as well. So it's funny you say that, because in more recent years, I had a list of requirements too. It's funny, and that's the other thing. Any of you that are really interested in getting into the coaching model or the professional speaker model, which is a little bit different, but with coaching, the one-on-one, you do need to, this is where you need to know your value and to choose the people you want to work with, because you also want to be successful. And if you're choosing the wrong people to coach, you're not going to get the referrals, you're going to get nowhere, and you're going to feel like shit too about yourself, because you're not going to be getting the outcomes that you know that you can get.
And you might get called a scammer.
You might. Oh, yeah. And the people that don't want to do therapy, they don't listen to podcasts, they don't read a book, those are the people that are going to fucking blame you, because those are probably the narcissists and the personality disorder and the people that are trying to just get proof that they're okay and everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
And they're going to be the ones that are going to also then say you're the problem. So, you know, I haven't been in that situation with coaching, thank God, but I have friends that have been in that situation, that they're like, oh my God, this person, like, they're just not getting better. And then they kept trying, they kept pushing and trying. And the person, it's almost like you know, they were trying to get into coaching so they could prove to themselves or to a spouse that they were right. And yeah, my friend was a little bit newer in coaching, and you know, kind of got pulled into this where they were very unhappy with their results because they really didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You
So
have to
it's
want to do it. You have to want to see people win.
And they need to want to see themselves win. And so I like your disqualifiers or your pre-qualifiers, whatever you want to call them. Being in therapy, wanting to, I like those. Those are really great.
Mm-hmm. Understanding too that a lot of the reason why you aren't where you want to be is because you're the problem.
That's right.
You have to look at yourself. You have to be willing to look at yourself and say, okay, what am I not doing? What could I be doing? You know, who should not be here? How can I rearrange some things in my life to get what I want? And a lot of people that want the big goal, they don't want to move anything around. And I'm like, you have to be able to move some things around.
It's funny because they all want the power. They want to have the success, which means you have power to create, yet they don't want to take responsibility that they've created the mess that they're in. Let me tell you, folks, those of you who have been my fans and listening for a long time, you know my story. You know how hard it was for me to like look at myself and everything that I created and go, oh my God, my disempowerment, my fragile state, my anxiety, the list went on. I created all of this and all the after effect of disempowerment, embarrassment, and guilt, and like playing small and sleeping on couches and all the things, because I felt so humiliated from my choices, you know, the relationship that kind of led to the destruction and then my resulting, you know, rise and better creation of my life. But it is really, really hard to point the finger back at you. Even if someone else harmed you, you also put yourself in that harm's way.
Yeah. But you can't learn the lesson if you're not willing to admit that you were a part of the problem. So that's how we get better. We get better by going back and looking at ourselves and saying, okay, what role did I play in this? You know, nothing is, you know, we don't want to victim shame, but if it even starts with something as simple as, you know, admitting I didn't know how to set boundaries because I wasn't taught how to set boundaries. So this happened because I saw a red flag, I felt a red flag, and I chose to ignore it because it felt better. If you can admit that to yourself and you say, okay, well, what will we do differently this time?
Right. And I'm so glad that you addressed the whole victim shame thing, because I was going on in my mind too. I want to make sure that we across that, because sometimes things happen to us, right? That it was harm. Someone else did inflict it, right? And we're not taking that away. I was harmed. I don't take what my victimizer did, but I did not get into the I allowed myself to feel like I was a victim, but I was having a hard time accepting my responsibility in setting the stage. And I like that you said it's about the boundary. So very delicate situation for those of you who might have some more delicate situations where you've been hurt by people. We're not taking that away, but understanding where there could have been some, and I like you addressing the boundary perspective.
We
because
don't
it
know
is-
what we don't know. And that's
right.
actually one of my favorite like mantras right now. So when we're talking about like wealth and abundance and growing, it's very exciting because I would say for me, in maybe the last 4 years of this journey, I realized I don't know what I don't know. And that's a great thing because when you don't know what you don't know, you can say, I don't have a house in Malibu yet because I don't know what I don't know. But when I find out, it could change my entire life. And there are so many people that are like, I never knew this. I didn't know you could make money doing this. I didn't know you could get a car doing this. You don't know what you don't know. So even when it comes to boundaries, a lot of times when someone is in a situation that set them back or hurt them and they're like, I didn't use discernment, I didn't set boundaries, it's not to guilt shame you because a lot of times you just didn't know how. And that's not necessarily your fault. But at this big age, the mantra is know better, do better. So if we can acknowledge that, you know what, I didn't have discernment, I didn't have boundaries, I did what felt good, and that's on me, but I didn't know then, but I know now. You can still take responsibility.
Right. Yeah. And it's a hard pill to swallow for some people because you have to admit, to self-reflect firstly, admit and forgive yourself. Forgive the other person, forgive yourself. Sometimes self-forgiveness can be very hard.
Very hard.
Yeah. Because no one wants to feel the big core wound that everyone has, that they're not enough, they're not lovable. Yeah. And so if we realize that we put ourselves in harm's way and in indirectly or from our own not knowing, created a situation, that's really, really challenging to forgive ourselves sometimes and to move past it. People self-medicate and they do all sorts of crazy things. So these are kind of like some of those precursors that we talk about. People need to be able to do these fundamental things before they can really embrace coaching, like at our level where we can really help them and get them to like their next level, their transformation. So
for sure.
That's awesome. I love that. So going into the financial piece now, this is what we've all been waiting for. So tell me a little bit, we talked a little bit before the podcast about there are some differences in terms of what problems women might face versus men in terms of generating money or sort of their mindset or the challenges that they have. What are like the top 3, let's say overall, and then maybe you can add like women tend to be more this one or men tend to be more challenged with that aspect?
Yeah. I think for women, when it comes to building wealth and making money, women have a hard time asking for what they want. Women are they take what's given to them because no one wants to come off as a gold digger or too assertive or whatever. So they just kind of close mouth that doesn't get fed. They don't want to ask for the raise or they don't want to ask for the bigger amount because that's just the culture of American culture. Like you deserve less. So for women, that feeling that you deserve what you are worth, that's probably the biggest thing because it's like, oh, no, that's enough. But is it really enough? Like, because deep down, I feel like you want more and you're just not saying it. So that's probably one of the biggest things that women will stop themselves from excelling because culture has told them that you just get this amount and you really don't deserve more. Why? Why should I give you more?
Right. And it's funny because my last the podcast guest, they were saying they did some research and women tend to be told to just save, to spend their money more wisely, to cut corners, save more, instead of just asking for more money or diversifying their income or doing the things that men have traditionally been told to do. So that it feeds right into what you're saying. The culture has been like, just be okay with it.
Right.
Be, this is what you deserve and just quiet.
Right. And I think too, with women, no one wants to feel like they are doing too much. Women have traditionally in our culture, there's a role to play. It's like, if you're a mother or a wife or a daughter, that is your focus. But then when you start diversifying and creating multiple streams, it's like, well, what about your partner? What about your children?
Mm-hmm.
What about, these things? Like that's not your role. So there is some guilt that women will tend to feel like, I'm doing too many things that are taking me away from, my partner or my children or whatever. And I shouldn't be doing all of these things in the name of earning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And a lot of women don't even realize that they have that guilt. They just know that they feel guilty, but they don't know where it's coming from or why. And it's cultural, it's generational, it could be passed down. So if we don't go to like the root of our money problems, like what our mom or our grandma or what we saw them doing, we don't know why we feel maybe guilt or shame around it. But I think a lot of women, it's, feeling like I don't deserve it. And then when I get it, feeling like guilty about it. And I think I don't know if I coined this term or if I heard it somewhere, but I say a lot of women have what I call survivor's guilt. Like once they start making like a certain amount of money and they start being able to do things that maybe their friends can't do or their parents couldn't do, especially like their mom, they feel a little like shameful around it because it's like, well, you didn't get to do these things or you can't do these things. So why me? Why should I be able to do these things? It doesn't feel right. So they self-sabotage.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how have you seen women generally self-sabotage?
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh.
What do they do? What do they tend to do?
I've seen
get into a
people
bad relationship, or they start giving money away,
or just kind of like blowing things off. I've seen people get like major brand deals, like, by doing all of the work. It just seems too easy. I've seen people do all of the work, like, the networking, the following up, the marketing, all of these things, and then get like a major brand deal that could like change your life and then just kind of like blow it off. Like, oh, I don't want to, whatever. And it's just like, is it fear? Is it the money? I've seen people definitely give it away, compulsive overspending. Like if I just buy everyone a bunch of things, that'll help with the survivor's guilt and just start like really not investing, not saving, not growing the money, just getting rid of it. Because like it's literally saying, I don't want this abundance. Let me hurry up and get rid of it. I see that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when a woman tends to create that wealth, to mitigate that guilt, she'll give it to the people that maybe can't do it.
Yeah. In kind of irresponsible ways sometimes. And I had even been guilty of that. When I first started making like, I remember the first Christmas I was making 6 figures. I went insane. And it's like now Christmas is like I'm like, this is what it is because that's not what Christmas is about.
Right.
But like the first Christmas, I really felt like I had abundance and I was building wealth. I went like crazy because I hadn't been able to do it before. And a lot of it was guilt. That feeling that, well, I wasn't enough then, but because I have this money now, I'm enough now. So you get this, I feel like Oprah. I was like, you get a car, you get a computer, you get a fireplace, you get this bag. It was out of control. Right. It was out of control. And as much as we want to be able to like bless the people around us, we have to be able to admit that sometimes when we do things with money, it's overcompensating for a limiting belief or an internal feeling that we may be struggling with.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so what about guys? What are their issues that they tend to struggle with?
I think that guys have a tendency to...
Alimony? Divorces?
Yeah, I think that guys have a tendency to want to show their wealth much more than women. So a lot of times with money, when they get it, even if it's just a taste of it, they have to go out and they want, especially if like you're struggling with some sort of imposter syndrome or you're not being good enough, the minute that a guy gets like any kind of money, it's like people need to see this. Like this is where my respect comes from. So I'm going to, trick this off on this car or this watch or get bottles or just do like really kind of like
the flashy.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of thinking like, you know what, I earned this and I want to grow this. No one has to know, this does not define who I am. But I think that a lot of men struggle with that. And that's where like the lack of abundance comes in.
Okay, so let's go into some solutions then for the women. So how would you tackle this? Because you on the empowerment side, well, corporate side, you do a lot of mindset. I'm assuming on the coaching side, empowerment too. It's about mindset. So how would you tackle a woman who is having that survival guilt? You called it, right? Like
Yeah.
the abundance and feeling guilty about it.
Yeah. I always say the first thing, as hard as it is, you got to start with your circle. You have to normalize your wealth. So one of the things I always have like these little like phrases. It's really weird. This is like one of my little quirks. So I always say, go where money is and do what money does. So that means you have to start incorporating wealth into your daily life so that it feels very normal. And once it starts to feel normal, you will understand that, you know what, I have this because I've done the work, because I've positioned myself, because I'm talented, because I have value, and I deserve these nice things. And it's nothing, no shade to anyone who hasn't done it, but this is for me because I've done the work. I don't need to feel guilty about it. I don't need to feel shameful, and I don't need to overcompensate because this is just my life now. But in order to normalize that, you have to change your circle. You have to change where you have lunch. You have to make an effort to show up places where everyone else has that mindset. Because if your core circle has the belief that, don't be spending all your money, don't do this, don't do that, you shouldn't, da 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 da, that's where that guilt and shame comes from. But if you go to a country club or you go to the Four Seasons for lunch or you do whatever and people are just going on about their day like it's just money and there's a bunch of it, it's not a big deal, you will begin to believe that it's not a big deal. So go where money is and do what money does.
That's really great. Okay, so I'm thinking about when I did my relationship series and now all of this financial series. So what if you have a spouse or a companion or somebody who you absolutely love and is wonderful, supportive, but they maybe don't make as much money as you, or you tend to be someone who's like, you like to save and you like a good deal and a bargain. Do those things throw people off? Because you've met a lot of people who are super, super wealthy and they don't spend anything. They like are bad tippers. They still want they still want a deal. They always want the deal.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? Or is it?
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that when you are in a relationship and you have two different mindsets about abundance, it can cause friction in the relationship. And I've actually dealt with this. I mean, I love my husband. He's great, but we grew up very differently. I grew up under this kind of mindset that, like, my dad was in the military. He always had like a second job. He was like the guy at Sam's Club and Costco, like giving samples on the weekend, even though he had like a corporate job and he was military. My mom was a hairstylist. So I kind of grew up in this non-traditional, like there's always money and there's always ways to make money and you should have nice things.
Right.
Like you should have nice things and take care of your things. So I've never had a problem with getting myself nice things. Or my husband grew up like, you don't spend your money on wild things. Like you get what you need because what if you lose your job?
Right.
And I'm like, lose your job, you get another one. So so I think that when you have a relationship where there's two different mindsets about money, that's where communication comes in. Like one thing is I never want to invalidate anyone's upbringing or background or mindset. Like I understand that our limiting beliefs sometimes are like locked in core through like generational trauma. And it's not something that can just be undone overnight. I've been in therapy for 7 years. I'm one of the best therapists in the state. I mean, I will sing her praises. I always say, God protect her. But she's amazing. But it took me 7 years to do the work of going to therapy and understanding where these things come from. So if you're looking at someone who hasn't done the work, isn't going to do the work, doesn't want to do the work, the best thing that you can do is have good communication and kind of understand, like, look, this is your belief. This is my belief. Where can we meet in the middle with this, And my husband and I are like very similar like that because he's gotten so much better though. I love like a good 5-star hotel, like just an experience. He couldn't care less. He's like, look, give me like the free continental breakfast. He's like, if they have free breakfast, he loves a free breakfast. He's like, if they have free breakfast and it's like walkable to where we're going and it's clean, I'm good. I want like a lobby and concierge and all that. So we kind of meet in the middle. He's like, we don't have to do all that. Like, do you really want to spend like $600 on this hotel, or would you rather have like more nice dinners and we have a view? So we kind of communicate and meet in the middle.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But I'm not staying at the Red Wynn.
That's her limit.
I'm not doing it.
Amen. That's great. So, no, I really like that. I like the compromise, or I don't even like using the word compromise. I like adaptation and problem solving together.
Yeah.
I really don't like using that in relationships. That's just like one of those taboo words.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're compromising, because there can be some negative undertones, even though that there could be a positive tone
What's
to
the
it.
win-win?
Right.
We're both winning.
Right, exactly. Okay, so then going to men, what would be a solution that you would work with men and their overspending? Like,
Gosh, I think it's really hard with men. It's
why
very,
is that?
I think because men kind of run the country, and you can't tell a man anything. And this, it's really hard to tell guys anything, because another guy will tell them something different. So I think with men, it goes back to therapy, and getting men into therapy sometimes can be hard. But I would definitely say it goes back to your circle, changing your circle, finding out what your values are. I think at the end of the day, if you can sit down with a guy and be like, okay, what are your core values? Like at the end, like what is defining what you want your life and your legacy to look like? Like, do you want to be known as the guy that was like flashy, this, that, or the other? Is this how you're getting your respect? Like, where is this coming from? Like, why are you doing this? Sometimes we're doing things and it's so far from our core values and what we want to be known for, but because it's feeding an emotion or a need, we're not even using logic and thinking about like, no, I want my kids to be able to, I want to buy my kids their first house, or I want them to be able to go whatever school they want to go to, or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, how is what you're doing with your money helping you to start accomplishing that goal right now? Like, if you value, family and having a legacy and security, and that's what you're saying internally you want for yourself, but externally you're doing other things, we need to start looking at how we can design your day-to-day life around your values. So that's going to look like community, number one, people that are going to respect you beyond what's on the external, right. Education, what do you know? And just immersing yourself in that mindset shift and that lifestyle shift. Because usually it's about lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, God, we're like burning through this hour so quickly. So we talked a little bit, and those are great points. I absolutely love them. We talked a little bit about diversifying income and the niche-y things. So we talked about the coaching, we talked about the speaking. What other ways, like maybe personally, do you have any other interests or any other side hustles or in hustles or out hustles or whatever you call them?
Yes.
To bring in revenue. Okay. Tell me.
I am just one of those people that believe that you can make money really doing anything that you enjoy, and there's a market for everything, and you'd be surprised. So before the pandemic, we started doing Airbnb, and we actually started doing the original model of Airbnb. A lot of people don't realize that Airbnb, it stood for air, bed, and breakfast. That's what Airbnb means. So it's like an inflatable bed. An inflatable bed. Airbnb stands for air, bed, and breakfast. And Airbnb started as an airbed on the founder's living room floor. And Airbnb started as crashing on people's couches and in their spare bedrooms. And then it just, over the last few decades, it morphed into, these, designer houses in Tulum. But the original model of Airbnb was just your spare room in your house. So we started that model, and it just was amazing. I loved it. Became a super host within I don't even remember. It was maybe 3 months or something. And so there's Airbnb. I have some drop shipping stuff. So like I said, I like my little phrases. So I'll come up with cute phrases. I make gifts for people. So I used to have a doormat on my front door that I made as a gift, and it said something very silly like, "This house runs on Amazon Prime, Crown Royal, and Jesus." And people were just like, "Where did you get that?" And I'm like, "I made it." And I was like, "Well, can you make me one?" So I started making them, and then it just became like,
is it an Etsy thing?
It's just Shopify. Yeah.
Shopify.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it
Okay.
just kind of became its own thing. And when I feel like it, I turn it on. When I get crafty, I feel like doing things,
Oh, so you
So
can turn it on and off.
you can, I mean,
Oh,
you can say sold out if you don't feel like producing,
I see.
product or whatever, and you don't feel like being bothered with it. So there's that. I have some digital products on Amazon. I have a Bible study guide and a few other planners and a few digital products. Yeah, so there's coaching, there's consulting. I do concept consulting. So a lot of times people are like, Rhonda, I want to start a business, but I really just don't even know like what I'm good at and how to go about it in a way that feels right for me. So can you sit down with me and help me come up with just a overall plan, like what's a model that's going to work for me? So yeah, and we're starting a peer space. So just
A what? What was
a peer space. So it's like just you use your house for photo shoots, cookouts, Bible study, dinner parties. You just use your space. People can rent it. So if some
where do you put? What platform is that?
peer space.
It's actually called Peerspace.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So like literally, you like my balcony is like a little cute backdrop, and I'm like people can come here and take pictures. And I can just charge them like $20 an hour to like take pictures. Or, like you could even set up like a podcast studio in like a spare bedroom. Yeah. I always say
Oh.
there's so many ways to make money. Like I did not know. My husband told me this and I thought he was lying. But you can deliver Uber Eats on foot now.
what? No, you can't.
Yes, you can. Yes, you
No,
can.
you cannot.
Yes, you can.
Your food will arrive in 3 hours and 29 minutes
Well,
by foot.
Well, no, think about it.
Could
If
you
you
imagine?
live in
kidding.
a place where there's like eat, live, play, and there's like a restaurant, like restaurants, and then there's like condos or apartments across the street. And we saw this because where we live, there's like this huge apartment complex, and like across the street is like a Subway, a KFC, and a Popeyes or something, and a Pizza Hut. So we always see this kid like running back and forth with food. And
Child labor.
and I'm like,
Great.
he's like in his
I'm
20s.
kidding.
But I'm like, and then I looked and they say, you can deliver by bike, Uber by bike now too. So it's like this person can deliver Uber Eats by foot. I guess you have to be like in a small radius. And I'm like, you know what? I bet you that kid doesn't even have like Wi-Fi or even a real phone. Like he's probably doing that with like an Obama phone, like Obama phone and a pair of Nikes, and he's
Yeah.
getting his bread.
Yeah, yeah.
So as long as there's a
amazing.
guy out here with an Obama phone and a pair of Nikes getting money,
Yeah.
like there's nothing you can't have. That's abundance.
That's amazing. Seriously, I feel like that's a mic drop for this episode. Beautiful. Like, no fucking excuse, anybody. No excuse for not making money. Like, you can Uber Eats by foot
With a fake phone that just
With
gets
a-
Wi-Fi from the restaurant.
with a fake phone and not even some Nikes or Jordans, just, whatever.
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops. That's right. You can enter most establishments with flip-flops.
I
at
mean, you
least.
could. I mean, that just goes to show, though, when we talk about like abundance, there is no lack. So if you see the kid who has the Obama phone and he's running back and forth like the pizzas and the subs, and because the apartment complex is huge, so I'm like, he's probably getting hits all day because these are people that just don't want to walk across the street. They'd rather have him do it.
Yeah.
So he's like, what am I doing? Why not? Like, this is easy. I can
Right.
just run across the street, get this food, run back. I'm getting exercise. It's nice out. And
Right.
he's getting the things that he wants. And depending on how long or how short he does it, who's to say how much money he's making for his lifestyle?
That's right. Back and forth. I mean, if he lives in the condos too, that's
There's always something. I say my housekeeper, this woman stays booked. Like she doesn't have a website. She doesn't have, I just know her phone number and her Venmo. That's
right.
it. She's been cleaning my house for like a year. And when I reach out to her for a cleaning, there's always a wait. She's like, I'm booked, I see you on the 17th. And I'm like, okay. And she gets in and she gets out. And it's like, she makes her money. And I don't know how many houses a day she does, but she doesn't have a website. She has a Venmo and a cell phone in her name. She has all of her things, but this woman is out here and it was all referral based. And I'm like, Maria's getting her bread.
yeah. It's amazing.
Like there's a wait to get your house cleaned.
I love this. This has been so inspiring because it's very not what a lot of people are saying that you need to do, like really whoring yourself out on social media, and it has to be, these are the popular ways. You've really been so brilliant in bringing other ways. Really, you can have multiple revenue streams based off of your passions. And that's the other thing that this is part of the authenticity. You know, you're making money off of your artistic streak, and then you can just shut that down for a little bit. And like your beautiful home that you created, and then the photography, you know, in the home that you created, like things that are right there, your own abundance that you use from your other work to create can then also, you're like double down, triple down on things. It's amazing. I love this.
Yeah, I always say, you know, triple dip. When I have my Airbnb, I would have a little QR code that says, you know, you love to travel, want to learn how you can like live this life and travel more. And at one point I was teaching people how to create their own Airbnb so they can have another stream of income to travel more. But the QR code was just in the room. So I was literally getting coaching clients from my guests that were staying in my house. And it was effortless, and I didn't have to post on social media, and I just lived my life.
That's amazing. I love this. Oh my God. Thank you so much for being here. This is absolutely amazing.
Thanks for having
one
me.
of my favorites.
Oh.
Honestly, you're so cool, but like I really loved it. Like it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Because like I said, there's been so much, and I think I love it so much because for me personally, the advice that people have been giving me, right, as I build my brand, it's been so focused on one way. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. I know I don't have to fall into that niche. So
dominate your lane, girl.
Exactly. So I love that you're on the same vibe with me in terms of being able to really find other ways, you know, that are so easy and fun and
organic.
And organic. I know the social media it's not an organic thing for me. And I'm not going to do something that's not organic. And I'm not going to, and I don't let people tell me that I have to. I'm like, okay, that's great. Thanks. Next.
Feels cringy. We don't do cringe.
Cringe. No cringe. All right. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. You can all find her at
Real Life by Rhonda. It's everywhere on the internet. The website, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Facebook. Real Life by Rhonda, no H.
There you go. All right, guys. Until next time.